Okay, so today what we're going to talk about is all the recent updates that Elon Musk has been making just in the last few days. There's actually quite a number of, I think, fairly new information that he hasn't shared before. He was interviewed at All In Summit just yesterday, and a couple things he said. First, he said that Dojo 2 is going to be in volume production by end of next year, 2025, and that's going to be comparable to the NVIDIA B200s. He said that he's got improved conviction in Dojo. So that's pretty exciting. He confirmed that you're not going to really know how good Dojo is until version 3, and that third iteration likely won't happen. He said until late 2026. But by that point, that's when you can start thinking of could Tesla offer Dojo as a service, a compute as a service offering. The other thing he talked about was the Tesla bot, and he gave some numbers. He said that he thinks that maybe they can reach 1 million robots per year in about 5 or 6 years from now. So that's pretty short because the other guys there were thinking that it might be 10 years or later, but he said, no, 5 or 6 years, we can get to a million. He also clarified a number of news articles the last several days. The first one was Wall Street Journal. They came out with this XAI, some sort of rumor that they said that XAI had a discussion with Tesla that they would offer Tesla some XAI technologies in exchange for a share of the revenue from Tesla. Elon responded saying that that's not accurate. We don't know which part of it is not accurate, but he then explained that there's differences between the two companies' AI models, but he didn't say that this relationship between the two. He did say that there's no need to license anything from XAI. So that's quite interesting. I do hope that we're going to hear something about Tesla getting XAI shares, though. That is still something that he's working on. The other thing that he confirmed was Tesla will be opening up more superchargers, and he asked what regions do you think we need the most? And then finally, he also talked about this report from the Financial Times. They reported that Chinese car buyers are now shunning Tesla, according to this report. Well, Elon quickly responded saying Tesla's Shanghai factory is running at max capacity. And just this week, of course, we're getting the Tesla Chinese sales numbers, and it's looking really, really good. It's selling us everything we're able to build. So let's start off with that topic. Let's start off with you as we always do. Jeff, what's your thoughts on these ones? Which one do you want to attack first?
Yeah, I mean, just on the data center side, you also had to add to that list as a good list, Herbert, that Oracle had earnings and they did really well. And Larry Ellison was quoted, basically saying that in order to compete and really be building, frontier, we call them frontier models, the top end in terms of generalized intelligence and language models and everything, you'd basically be spending, minimum of 100, an OEM would be spending a minimum of $100 billion to get to that level. So we're talking about right now, Tesla and the $5 to $10 billion area and going higher. And here you have, a company that specializes in data center and applications saying that basically if you're going to be a top player in this game, it's 100, the ticket to ride's $100 billion minimum. So it really puts into perspective, this talk about, is the AI trade played out? And you've heard other CEOs say that, the worst thing you can do during this period is underspend. And what you've seen Elon do, on the Tesla and XAI front is, put, two of the largest clusters into from, zero to production pretty quickly, and there's no signs of stopping. One other comment I wanted to make was it's kind of two-sided here. So in Elon's commentary regarding the B200 and Dojo being a B200 equivalent, when he says end of next year, B200's in production now. So that would say that, even during this next cycle for Dojo, they're closing the gap basically, but they'll still be behind. Even if they get into production end of next year, it would still be behind. However, the way to think about it is in terms of monetary equivalence. Because remember, NVIDIA makes 70% gross margin uh, on their sales. So if you're buying, equivalent compute power, you've got to, you're spending, enough to get them 70 points of gross margin. But if you're building it for yourself, you obviously have to cover your costs, and you're not giving yourself 70% gross margin. So the point is even though they're behind, it depends where they're behind. Is it functionality? Is it capability? Or is it processing power? If it's power, they can overcome some of that in monetary equivalents by not having to pay themselves, the 70 points of gross margin that they have to play to ride with Nvidia. So I don't know if that was clear or not the way I described it, but as they start building for themselves, you start taking that huge um, you start taking that huge gross margin loop out in terms of having to pay for that network infrastructure, and maybe they catch up a little faster is the point.
Okay. Yeah, that comment about Dojo and how they compare to NVIDIA. Thank you for sharing that. I want to stick to these topics that Elon did, but I liked, Simon, you had a post that I did a show on also about Deutsche Bank. You said that Wall Street is starting to wake up to the fact that Tesla's an AI company. And possibly they're actually recognizing that Tesla is the real world AI leader. You got Deutsche Bank, and there's a number of statements that the analyst Edison Yu said that was interesting. So, of course, they named Tesla top pick, but then they said, we do not see Tesla as an automaker, but rather a tech platform, technology platform attempting to reshape multiple industries. And it deserves a unique type of valuation framework. So that is music to our ears. And of course, they say near term, automotive deliveries is going to be soft, but long term, Tesla is an emerging leader in autonomous driving, human or robots, and represents some of the most clear and lucrative applications of end-to-end AI. Simon, do you think that Deutsche Bank and then, of course, Morgan Stanley also had a new note today? Are they seeing that, we're starting to hear them say, yes, Tesla's an AI company, but it's about their time frame. Many of them are still saying, yeah, sure, but 2040. Do you think some of them are actually realizing it might actually come sooner than 2040?
I'm not. I'm not sure, but what I've seen them do, and I read most of these reports, is that they're modeling it out to 2040, and then basically doing a DCF model backwards, and whatever they want to put a discount at 8 or 10%. So I haven't seen anyone on Wall Street yet say, well, it's going to be sooner rather than later. But what was interesting, somebody pointed this out. I posted that this morning, and they said, well, 6 months ago, or actually back in April, there was an analyst that was Deutsche Bank basically said they had a $120 price target on it. It's like, how do they flip so quick? So I actually looked into it, and it was really interesting. There was a guy, Emmanuel Rosner, who used to cover Tesla for a few years, and now this new analyst pops up, and I don't know if he was fired or what the deal was, but he didn't have a very good track record in terms of like on tip rank and whatnot. And they brought in this new analyst, and this new analyst is they say resuming coverage. What they mean by that is he wasn't covering it before, but he's resuming coverage for the company. And what was interesting about the note, which really stuck out in my mind, was, again, you mentioned this, was long-term Tesla is an emerging leader in autonomous driving, robotaxi, and humanoid robots with their Optimus, and that they are they're basically saying that this is the most clear and lucrative application of end-to-end AI. So I think this is one of the two or three Wall Street analysts that are starting to recognize the value in this AI application, and it's not large language model, but it's real world, and how Tesla is a leader. I get excited about this. I think most of the retail investors, especially in this space, have been quite early in recognizing this, myself included. But that's a good sign. That's kind of where opportunity is. So yeah, that's my take on it. But it is exciting that Wall Street is waking up, and they're actually now finally talking about this end-to-end real-world AI, and that Tesla is not one of the leaders. They're saying they are the leaders. An interesting note, actually, I've been following this company called Mobileye, and I've never invested in it, but I was shocked that the stock did not go down after Elon did his first ride, and they went end-to-end neural net. And I'm watching this stock, and it's just getting cratered recently. And I think it took like 6 or 9 months for the street to wake up to the fact that they're going to fail in this race with their technology. Anyways, just a side note.
Oh, great side notes. Thank you so much, Simon. I love your perspective, and we do appreciate that. So just think about what I said right at the very beginning. I went through a list. So just what, 6 months ago, did anybody think that Dojo was even a real thing? And now Elon is saying that Dojo 2 is in production, volume production by the end of next year, 2025. Did anybody think that superchargers, didn't everybody think that that was, pause? Well, here he is saying that we're going to open more superchargers. And then Tesla Shanghai factory is at maximum capacity. And you know what I mean? Like, and then he confirmed that the bot, he thinks that within 5 years, maybe 6, there'll be 1 million robots per year production. These are things that he's confirmed just in the last few days. Nothing, right? Nobody's nobody's excited. Now, I guess because it's just all Elon comments, but we did get a number of other comments directly from like somebody like oh God, I'm blanking right now. Andre Karpathy, who said that he sees Tesla as a leader in autonomous because it's a software problem, not a hardware problem like Waymo has, and that he sees that it's a robotics at scale company. So who wants to take that on, Xander or Sat? Yeah, go ahead, Sat.
Yeah, I wanted to. I love the list you have because when people don't react to those stuff that Elon's saying because so far ahead or such new technology, people don't believe it because it's like a sci-fi movie. Mobileye just announced that they're going to move away from LiDAR, and Tesla and Mobileye used to collaborate, and Mobileye was like the forefront of the cameras on the cars. And then they ended a partnership in 2016, and he had made that decision at that time. And everyone said, "No, you need the lidar, you need a lidar, right? You need the radar, etc. You need the combo, right?" And Waymo's used both basically, and more sensors and whatnot. But Elon said that 2016, and everyone said, "No, you're wrong." But he's actually true. It came true today to verify the leader that collaborated with Tesla, because it took Tesla 18 months to catch up to, I believe 18 months or plus or minus around there to catch up to Mobileye's camera suite, making it in-house. And Mobileye just announced that they're going away from LiDAR technology, basically, right? So like Elon had already predicted this like years ago, almost a decade, 8 years ago. And so when he's talking about Dojo too, he's talking about all these other technologies, about the Optimus and so forth. People are thinking, oh, it's some like sci-fi movie 20 years from now, but Elon's actually seeing the future because it's already happening in front of him, but we don't see it. So it just proves like that it's not a coincidence in my eyes that, hey, they're moving away from LiDAR, and then Elon's making another bunch of other, giving us a bunch of other information about new technology. So I wouldn't take it a grain of salt.
Yeah, that's a great point. I mean, I guess half of this whole game of investing in Tesla is, do you believe Elon or you don't? The people who don't believe Elon thinks that nothing he says will ever come through, or that they're all decades away, versus some of us who think that it's going to happen within the next 5 years.
Mobileye basically said, "Oh, the ending the partnership with Tesla is okay because they're not a significant part of our revenue. There was an accident, and so they were kind of concerned about that liability. So like, oh, we're going to go our separate ways because they're not a significant factor." But the Mobileye just went down from that point. They never really got more like advanced or pioneering new things since then. Tesla actually overtook them after a couple of years. So when people take Elon's announcements or these sound bites from his interviews and think that, oh, it's not a big deal, it's like you don't know what is going to happen in 3 to 4 years, because that's the time frame, even a couple of years, that it's going to really show up. And if you don't even follow the company, like 8 years later, the other companies are literally bowing out. So I think what he's saying is really important in that way, and so many people still, after 15, 20 years, still doubt what he's saying.
Oh, so since we're talking about Mobileye, I want to ask, there's a debate amongst the community, like Gary Black says something different than some other Tesla bulls. Mobileye announced today that they're going to end their internal development of their LiDARs. And, Gary Black is saying, that doesn't mean LiDAR doesn't work. He's saying all they're saying is that they're now going to end their internal development, but they're still open for third party, outsourcing a third party. But in the actual article, it says the reason why we're doing this is because we believe that the availability of LiDAR is less essential to our roadmap. And this decision was based on a variety of factors, including that our computer vision perception has progressed substantially, that we've got increased clarity on the performance of our internally developed imaging radar, and then that also that there's better than expected cost reductions in third-party LiDAR units. So yeah, it's obviously, yes, it's true. They are just saying they're not going to create it anymore. They're laying off 100 people, but they're kind of also saying, aren't they, that that imaging radar is a strategic priority in terms of their sensor development. Who wants to take that?
Well, Elon already said that. Part of the reason why LiDAR isn't going to be successful is because Waymo had already shown that like each unit's too expensive. So for mass production, it's not going to be suitable. So that's why the cameras, which is really cheap, and it gets cheaper, every few years. It's like way cheaper that even our camera phones are almost as good as those big cameras now. So like when you take that cost and you're trying to make a mass producing vehicle and you have to put it on each one, the LiDAR didn't make any sense from a cost perspective either.
A lot of these decisions are multi-year decisions where you need a visionary, you need a technologist, you need that unified as much as possible and at the top of the heap, making those decisions for your company. These things are difficult to do by committee. These things are difficult to do, at a board level. You need someone that, sets the direction and gets the company to commit and move, and they have to be right. So whether it's, starting, US battery assembly supply chains via joint venture, whether it's, building out the supercharger network, which has been a huge, decade plus investment. These are things that have to be made. These are commitments that have to be made at the top, and you need the company to, commit and go forward on. And I think this is where a lot of companies struggle. A lot of companies try to do these things by committee. A lot of companies don't have that visionary leadership at the top. And whether it's, we're going computer vision, we're building out this supercharger network, we're investing in battery production, we're investing in our own design. Not everything's going to work, by the way. I mean, if you look at the 4680, for example, that the company is not where it wanted to be, where it set out on on 2020 and from battery day. So not everything works. Not everything works on the time schedule prescribed, but you need somebody that is more right than wrong, making those multi-year, multi-decade type decisions for the company. And when you do that, you're set up for success. So now the thing is, if you haven't been investing in data center and training and building up, not only buying compute, but having the people that know what to do with the compute, having the engineering horsepower to know what to do with compute, building that internal team on autonomy. Now you see BYD trying to catch up, and both through partnerships and both through internally trying to build out that capability. And again, this is a game of, you've got to be able to have a visionary. You have to be able to make those 5+ year, 10+ year decisions. And whether it's how a car is going to be made, going from conventional multi-part serial assembly to minimize part count serial assembly through castings, and then going to unbox. These are things that are many, many years in the making. So this is another example of it. And again, as long as you're more right than wrong, you're not gonna bat 1,000. That's a US baseball term. You're not gonna get them all right, and you're not gonna be on time on all of them. But if you're more right than wrong, and you're more on time than missing everything, then and you're eventually correct, I think you're gonna be in a good position.
Jeff, just to comment on the AI compute, I was giving some thought after I read the headline that XAI just built the largest H100 supercluster in the world, and it's interesting because prior to that, Tesla or Elon was getting a lot of flack for sending some of those H100s over to XAI. But you think about it, and it actually relates to, and I think you know this, Jeff, a lot of people in this post do, but for those who don't, it just like dawned on me how fast you could put yourself in Elon's shoes. So he's been building these super clusters or AI computers at Tesla for many years. He takes what he learns, all the mistakes, all the trials and errors, goes over to XAI, then all of a sudden accomplishes a feat of just stunning. I mean, everybody that is in AI is going, what the F just happened? And then they say, oh, and by the way, we're going to double that size in the next number of months with the B200s. And so you say, well, that's XAI, but we also know that Tesla is also about to complete their new center at Giga Texas. And they're just going to take everything that they learned at XAI and infuse it back over to Tesla. And they're going to get that supercomputer on board even faster and more efficiently and more effective. And all these other companies that are just, and we're talking like the mega scalers, they're struggling to get to that scale. And Tesla, or I would say Elon, takes what he learns from one company and goes to the next company, applies it, and comes back to the next. And he's done it not just with AI, which everybody's complaining about, but he's done it with SpaceX and Tesla, and he does it with all the companies he owns, and he cross-pollinates. And I think that's really important when you're a founder and you're getting, you're learning so much about different areas, and then you can go and apply that. That's the recipe for success. When you look at all the companies that have disrupted industries, they've never specialized in that industry. They were cross-pollinating. They were specialty. They were an expert in one area, and then they cross-pollinated into another industry, and they completely disrupted it. And Elon has all these companies that are disrupting, and he's taking what he's learning from each company and then implementing into the next. And Tesla's a huge benefactor of that. It just like dawned on me the other day. I'm walking down the street reading this, and I go, holy moly, this is going to be huge. And Tesla's a huge benefactor that by the fact that he has all these other companies that he's learning from, and then he can implement all of those lessons and technology into Tesla. So
Simon, did you see the Morgan Stanley Adam Jonas note that he dropped this morning? And he said that he urges Tesla investors to expand their thinking. You need to consider the scenarios that Tesla might benefit from other Elon Musk companies.
No, I've got to read that. Sounds like a smart note, though.
That's exactly what you just said, right? It's
okay. No, I have to go.
It's exactly everything you said.
We don't have Morgan Stanley research. I always have to apply for it.
Well, I mean, it's awesome. The same thing. It got triggered by this comment about Wall Street Journal saying, hey, you know, XAI and Tesla should have a revenue sharing agreement. Elon said, of course, that's not accurate. But, you know, some of Morgan Stanley saying, yeah, you better start thinking about all the different companies that Elon is doing, because they could benefit you as a Tesla investor.
Yeah, agreed 100%.
So one of the biggest questions that, you know, just the biggest debate everybody's having is who's going to win autonomy? Who's going to win? Who's going to be first to robotaxi? Is it going to be a commodity? Do you give value to Tesla? And there was some new information that came out just the last few days, right? So first you had Andre Karpathy being interviewed. And what he said in this interview is that Tesla may still have a software problem, but Waymo has a hardware problem. And between the two, software is much easier to solve. And then Frida Duan, who's the principal at Altimeter Capital, she does fantastic work. If you guys don't know her, you should go check out her X account at Frida Duan, D-U-A-N. And she did a fantastic analysis. And she did the breakdown of Waymo's unit economics, the kind of the hardware costs, what the operating margin will look like, the depreciation, all that. She worked it all out. And what she's saying is that Waymo has a path to become profitable, especially, you know, the ex-CEO said that Waymo could be profitable in markets like San Francisco. And they could undercut Uber eventually if they can get their hardware problem, if they can solve hardware problem. This is a big if they can get the hardware problem to be as the price that Tesla's paying for it now. So Uber and Lyft currently, they earn $2.90 per mile with a 30% take rate. And she's saying that Waymo could undercut this if they can do this. However, it's only going to be confined to those geofenced areas. Tesla, if it can solve its software problem, if it can maintain that exponential increase in rate of improvement in disengagements, that's going to be a truly disruptive force in the entire market. So I thought that was great, because if you look at the actual, again, very detailed analysis, and she gives you the calculations, the tables, the spreadsheets, you can look at the costs. She's assuming that Waymo, you would need one remote assistant for every 5 cars. And Tesla may not need any of this. I mean, they may, but it won't be one for every 5 cars. It could be one in, I don't know who, I won't throw a number out there. So I thought that was quite interesting. What do you guys think if you guys had seen this?
Well, one thing that I have, the big issue is that you're adding on thousands of dollars of cameras and LiDAR onto Waymo. So your cost point where you're starting from is also much, much higher. So, Tesla's cars are getting cheaper. Waymo's vehicles are still like add-ons. So you have to buy the vehicle and then add the cameras. And then it's still limited to geofence place. So maybe in that secluded area, that geofenced area, it might work. But I also don't see how the business model is superior. I don't see it it could succeed. I'm not saying it won't succeed, but I'm saying that I don't see it to be a superior business model compared to what Tesla's doing.
Okay. Whoa, we covered quite a bit on all the things that Waymo's fantastic coverage. So let's get back to that list that I listed at the beginning, right? So all these things that Elon has confirmed. There's going to be new superchargers. There's going to be the new, 1 million Tesla bots in 5 years. To me, that is pretty close. That's not far away. Does anybody here, when he says that Dojo should have a Dojo 2 by the end of next year and Dojo 3 by the end of the following year, that's in 2 years from now. And then you've got, their ability to build a data center within 122 days. It just, for me, feels like these are, they could be accurate or more likely to be accurate. These aren't just guesses. When you hear something like this, 1 million bots in 5 years, is it still a total guess? Or do you think, what do you guys think is the accuracy rate of something like that?
I always build it in some Elon time. So depending on how big the project is, maybe the software I bake in 6 months to a year. If it's like Optimus, like a hardware stuff, plus the software, I think I'll add like a year or 18 months more than what he says, because they're not because he's not going to be right, but because they're doing something that's really difficult and that nobody has ever done. So there's going to be challenges that nobody's going to think. That the best educated guess is what he's giving, but that's at the moment of today. So maybe 6 months from now, a year from now, they run into a different problem like they did with FSD. So I think that I always bake some time frame in it, but I don't doubt that it won't happen. That's the difference.
I think it's interesting that the attention now, and we've been seeing this, but Tesla is no longer concerned with the production of vehicles and the ramp. And I guess you can see it a bit, every once in a while, somebody writes an article and says, "Oh, production in China is slowing," and they're like, "Yeah, sorry, it's not." And then you got record numbers. But I think even analysts on Wall Street have stopped worrying about the production numbers, and I think that's really interesting. If you can think about it, they've been concerned about production deliveries for so long, and I hear less and less of that chatter amongst Wall Street analysts, and more of autonomy, AI, and that's a really good sign that people Wall Street's waking up to the fact, and they're not wrong. Like Tesla came in, they conquered, a single category killer for each segment in the auto. They've proven that they're the only ones that can be, cost competitive with a superior product and safer in all ways. Everybody here knows that. I'm not trying to sell it to people, but they've come into the manufacturing of automobiles or EVs, and they've dominated. And there's now it's just they put it on autopilot, and their system just continue to innovate and improve. the competition is not catching up, and Tesla keeps advancing. But that's not where their focus is anymore. That's on autopilot. It's almost like set it, forget it. That machine is gone. It's left the building, and now they're so focused on autonomy, AI, Optimus, and only in the last few months we're seeing Wall Street wake up to that, going, "Hey, wait a minute, they're an AI company, and nobody seems to be talking about delivery vehicles anymore," which I think is a good thing. But I think everybody here realizes like they're dominating every sector they get into in the automobile industry, and now their focus has moved on, sleeve on next. I think that's important to know and to recognize as an investor.
Yeah, it is going to be important though for them to build a proper vehicle below 30,000, below 25,000 to really start hitting. I think what a lot of people don't realize is, when they see the Model Y is the number one selling vehicle, it's doing that, in spite of the price point it's at. If there was a version of the Model Y, well below $30,000, you know, you would see tremendous, more sales for that. And so I think it's important for Tesla to, like they've done very well, with that Model S tier when they released that product and how well that product has competed over the years. And then of course, the 3 and the Y when it was a $50,000 vehicle, and now, it's a, $30 to $45,000 vehicle, let's say. And it's doing very well. They're going to have to do that, between 20 and 30,000. And the reason they're going to have to do that is if you're going to have this great robotaxi network, you're going to have, these great services, you want to put it on your product, and you want your product to be out there and be out there in high volume. And the only way to do that is to get the launch cost down and to get the lifetime cost down. So, and maybe even change the model. So I don't think robo taxis so much are going to be priced in MSRP as they are priced in per mile, and then figure out what that business model is. So yeah, you're right. The interquarter or the quarter by quarter focus on on unit shipments has changed for sure. But there's still going to be this, over the next year, can Tesla figure it out, the sub 30,000 space, which I think they will, and how successful are they in it?
I've created a website that is the most comprehensive resource for the Tesla investor. Please check it out. Simply go to my website at herbertong.com.